We chatted a little bit last time about percent of change. That's where we're going to start here today. But then I also wanted to show you a couple of applications that could be helpful for that, whether you're out in retail, running your own business, anything like that in the future as well, before we get to the activity for today. So, first things first. We'll start with last week first. Credit card bill that was $346 went up to $380 the next month after not being paid. Row. By what percent did it increase? So, as we spoke about before, no matter if it's increase or decrease, we're always going to have the larger number minus the smaller, is what basically happens here. So, we know that we're going to take the difference of the two values. The question becomes, which number are we going to divide by? Well, we kept talking about the original. So it was 346. So the 346 in this case would be my original value. So if I'm going to go to the calculator, oh, I don't have one. Oh, wait, maybe I will. Just a minute here. Nope. If I'm going to try to put it all in the calculator at once, I've got to make sure that I'm using parentheses. Otherwise, if you just do the subtraction and hit enter, you'll be okay too. But I got to do one or the other because, just as an FYI, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to do this without the parentheses, kind of just to let you see what happens. I don't think my bill went up 379%. The calculator did the division before the subtraction because it didn't know I wanted to do that. So either I need to remember to do this, or you could just hit enter first. Oops, still got to type in the right number. Go from there. So again, the decimal isn't the percentage, okay? We chatted a little bit last week how we would like to probably do it this way. Even though, if you're comfortable, you can multiply this by 100 and get the percent. But last week we talked more about doing this as a proportion, like doing it this way. They both are going to get me the same answer. I'm always a fan, though, of showing a couple ways of doing things when I can. Because here, if I multiply by 100, I get the same thing. And I squished that in way too small. But they both get me to the same place. And that's where we were last week for the most part. But now, what if we make a little bit of an adjustment? Or what if we're given some different information? So, coffee. I like coffee. Find the cost for a consumer if a coffee shop marks up a 40-cent cup of coffee by 260%. Whew. Okay, so I start to look at this one and I go, all right, so if I went to my proportions like I did before, they're telling me the percentage of markup. So now I got to figure out, so 260%, because if I go back, and I'm going to for a second, so for those of you writing, give me just a second, I promise I will be right back to this. I just wanted to reference this for a minute, so we got, shoot, I grabbed my unwritten copy? Well, what the heck? Can I still come with it? That's not going to help me. I should steal one of your alls and do it that way. So here, what I've got to look at is the 260%, my percentage goes over 100. Now here's what I got to figure out though. The 40%, okay, the 40 cents, excuse me, is the full price for the coffee shop. I need to know what the 260% markup is. So that's where I can still use the proportion. I just got to figure out what the part's going to be. Because once I do, and that's a little bit towards where we're heading today. And so we take that 100x from this direction, our 104 from going this way, and just divide by the 100, because that's what's with x. Now, here's the thing. Okay, that's how much the coffee company is going to mark up the price. They're going to mark it up $1.04. But here's the tricky thing with markup and discount. That's not your final answer. Because that's just how much they're marking it up. They're still going to tack on their cost to the customer. That 40-cent cup of coffee is going to cost the customer $1.44. We'll be chatting about this some more with markup things when we get to our McDonald's example today. So, one more with markup. I think I might stick to markup because that's what we're going to be dealing with today. Might hit discount up tomorrow. Grocery store purchases crates of oranges for $3 a crate. They sell the oranges individually for 49 cents each. Ooh, find the percent of markup. Okay, there's lots going on here. The first thing is, notice they mention it's $3 not for one, but for a dozen. But then they talk here about selling the oranges individually. So we have a couple jobs here. Job one, figuring out how much one orange costs. So if it's $3 for 12 oranges, means they're a quarter each. Okay, so we got that now. They sell them for 49 cents. We're gonna find the percent. Okay. So let's see here. Find the percent. We don't know. We just always know that's the number over 100 when we're doing a percentage. Now here's the part that gets a little bit interesting again. Because we're not just going to put the 0.25 on top and the 0.49 on the bottom. We got to see how much is that markup. So one other little side piece here we're going to do. I wish I had a little more room in the cart. I'd do it in the cart, but we're going to do it down here. So here, we need to figure out originally they were a quarter. So now we've got to look and say the actual, not the percent, but the markup is the 49 cents they charge minus the 25 cents they paid. That 24 cents is the actual amount they marked it up. We're going to be experts by the time we get through this McDonald's part after seeing all this. So we're still going to do the cross multiply like we did before. And we're going to divide that 24 by the 0.25 that we've got in front here. Oofda. Is a 96% markup. Now you might think at first, dang, that's ridiculous. You know, that's a little bit much for what it is. But I'll tell you on a couple of fronts. Number one, and you'll see this, which I think it's going to be more than that with the McDonald's, but it's also going to be 50 plus years old. Most of the time, if you walk into a restaurant, most marketplaces make about, like a grocery store, 5 to 10% on what they sell. Restaurants, depending on what it is, it's closer to 200 to 300%. I know because I do catering stuff on the side. By the time you get into equipment and employees and all the other costs that go, that seems ridiculous, but they're not making that money. They're having to sell it off like the grocery store. They got a store, they got lights, they got things like that they got to do. So just something kind of as a little bit of background as we're seeing that, because that put me into shock the first time I'd seen it. And then it was my life, and then I'm like, ooh, now I'm seeing why this is that way. We're going to keep that handy because we are going to go into the practice packet. We're going to be starting over on page 33 sideways. We're going way back, people, like way back. Like this is even before I'm born. Now I'm old. We're going to chat markups for things over time and kind of see how much some things have changed. And it's like, dang. In the 50s, a hamburger was 15 cents. Cheeseburger was 19 cents. Fries, we got a dime. Most of the drinks were a dime. Milk, a little more. Not quite sure why. But, so the 50s, to us, right now, that seems pretty cheap. And then, even if we go over to the 70s, I can tell it's more because now, not only, okay, our hamburger and cheeseburger, I mean, we're still 28, 33 cents, and but now we got the bigger food, and we got the Big Mac for 65 cents. Can you imagine? And some other things went up a little in price, but as you can tell, the increases are still there over a 20-year period. So what are we going to do with this? Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little comparing here. So, for instance, the 50s prices you have, okay, in some of these. Let's get a couple of these down here. Just a second. I don't know if you want to do this, but I'm going to, just for our purposes, I'm going to take my menu and I'm going to rip it out of my paper here. So it's going to be a little easier for me to see. Okay. Yeah, rip away if you need to. Rip away. And so all we're going to do is we basically need the prices for this stuff back in the 50s. That was nice. They're even in order. I didn't even realize that when I did this. Orange juice, orange drink, and not quite the same, but we're going to roll with it that way because I don't have anything else in here to roll with. So you're like, okay, well, wait a minute. Current McDonald's price. Hardy, how am I supposed to know this? I thought I was thinking big-brained here, and I was going to just pull up the app on my phone and do it until I realized that it's breakfast time and I'm not going to have access to lunch prices. So I had to get a little creative here. So what we're going to do, luckily I was able online to find a place that they had the menu with prices here. So I'm going to scroll down a bit because some of the stuff we need don't need breakfast. All right, so let's see what we got here. Oh, there, no. Hamburger, the classic. Woof. Duh. We might have to go a little more in depth on some of this stuff. So $2.19 on the hamburger. That just puts me into shock. $2.39 on the cheeseburger. Oh, what else we got here? Shakes. Hopefully, if I keep going. Keep going. No, don't. Didn't have the fancy coffee back then. Oh, nope. Oh, sweets and treats. Here we go. Shakes. All right. None of that other stuff up here. I'm just going to check and make sure there's not like... Oh, wait. There went dessert. Come back here, dessert. Why am I looking for dessert? Is that just dessert on the brain? I think it is.
Looking at all this food makes me hungry.
I know. It's like... Shoot, I can remember the day even when they decided they were going to keep all the drinks at... Wait, why does it say the Coke's $2.59? No, the $1.69. We're fixing that on the fly. I'm like, I don't remember the last time McDonald's, bless you, when their drinks were that expensive. So, yeah, all the other ones are $1.69. What the heck?
This is why my mom doesn't like Coca-Cola.
Yeah?
I'm half joking when I say that.
Orange juice, $2.32. Is milk down here? Milk is down here. If you miss any, I'm writing them as we go too, and we'll be able to. So we got fries and coffee left. All right, hang on here. And normal coffee. Now this will be fun. Are you going to have normal coffee on here? Will be the question. Iced coffee. Premium roast. $1.89. Fries, I guess I just have to take whatever I'm going to get when I get here because I don't even know what size they're talking about. I think sizes have changed a little bit over time too. I'm willing to go out on a limb for. That must be the small because I don't remember fries being $1.89 either. I think they're more than that. I'm just saying. So hang on, let me get mine back up here. Off of there. There we go. So going back in the 50s here. Let's see what we got rolling here. I'll do a couple with you, and then I'm going to kind of get out of the way. So, reminder again, our difference in price, we're just going to take the larger price, which of course is going to be the current, minus... Oh, and then remember, you're always dividing for your percent of change, whether you're doing the proportion or just dividing and multiplying by 100. You're always taking the difference divided by the original. And the original is the 50s price in this case. And if you do that, you can just multiply that by 100, whatever decimal you get out. Or if you're more of a proportion person, we can do that. And then just divide that 204 by 0.15. Duh. $1,360%. But again, you've got to remind yourself that that's over, what, 70 years at least? So, I mean, even if we did... Now, still, I mean, you kind of check that out. You're like, dang. So, over... Even if we call it 70 years, that's an increase of about 20% a year. Now, some years, again... might not be as much, and other years might be a whole lot more. It just depends. But it just kind of keeps things in mind when you're out and you're, figuring out what you're going to spend your money on or trying to see, hey, how far does my money go? I mean, at least in this case, if you're not seeing your pay go up 20% a year, most of us don't, you're getting less as you go ahead here. So that'll be kind of interesting to see on some of these just how crazy large of a percentage that you end up with. So kind of see what's going on with these. Some of these you're going to see repeats, so you're not going to have to do a lot of work. But on the back of this sheet is working through the 70s with the same thing, which I'm going to have to update mine here as well. So if you're working away, that's fine. I'm going to head to the 70s here. Groovy, man. And get those updated for you here as well. Now, some of these, there's my 70s menu. I'll get my currents up here, because a couple of these new items weren't on the menu back then. So, order pounder with cheese. There it is. I will get the ones for you here. There's the fillet of fish, hamburger, cheeseburger, fries, shake, Coke, ice cream cone. That's a new one. That's why I was thinking dessert before. I wasn't crazy. All right, let me pop this back up. The other ones we did on the first run through, but these are the three that McDonald's got going a little more, expanded their horizons a little bit here. We got bigger burgers, we got fish and chicken working, we got the desserts working a little more besides the shakes. But those other ones for current you can get off of your 50s list that you had up on the other side. And then your 70s we got, of course, in your 70s menu on the back of your 50s. So just trying to see, even over a 20-year period, how much some of the prices changed. Because I think what you're going to find out, and might be something we chat about a little bit tomorrow at the start of the period, is looking at 20 years, you know, what was the percent increase if we kind of did it quick versus, hey, what's the percentage increase, you know, over the 50 years? So maybe we could start to make an inference, that's what tomorrow's going to be about what's been happening with prices over the years. So